Let me go back to my introduction screen where you can see my name and contact details. Again, coming back to the agenda, why SOLIDWORKS PCB, SOLIDWORKS PCB connector, product suite, and the demo for the product. Why SOLIDWORKS PCB? Schematic drawing. SOLIDWORKS PCB has an easy and flexible way to do all your schematic drawing for the electronic circuit. PCB layout. Based on the schematic drawing done, you can have a PCB layout done beforehand. Even you can check what kind of errors you have and all those stuff, and you can have your PCB dynamically drawn based on the routes from your schematic drawing. Multi-layer PCB, that's a screenshot of how a 16-layer PCB would look. This is just a small screenshot of how much PCB SOLIDWORKS allows. It can allow you to do up to a minimum of 32 PCB layers. Auto routing. You can have separate configurations for many number of auto routing. These are some of the configurations put up here. You can just select one configuration that you want for that project, and auto routing is done based on that. Design rule check. These are some of the design rule checks, and also all the design rule checks can be given specific criteria saying if it's a fatal error, that's the one shown in red. If it's a warning, it's a normal light yellow. Normal errors in orange, and need not even report, put them in green color. And based on the priorities that you've set, SOLIDWORKS PCB gives you design rules on them. Multiple output files. You can have lots of output files being given out of SOLIDWORKS PCB, like for Gerber, for fabrication, for pick and place to put all the components on them. And we also have even the new standard IPC 2581 from SOLIDWORKS PCB 2018. Multiple CAD data import. Most of the CAD data that you use now can be imported into SOLIDWORKS, and not just the schematic drawing, even the PCB boards can be imported for most of them. We already have an online database set up with Altium. Just because this PCB product is using the same engine as Altium, we can also use the database readily available from Altium for SOLIDWORKS PCB. The most important feature of SOLIDWORKS PCB connector. This is a typical layout of your PCB board in SOLIDWORKS PCB software that can be put into the mechanical SOLIDWORKS CAD and checked if the SOLIDWORKS PCB board or Altium PCB board fits perfectly into our mechanical enclosures. And the data transfer is instantaneous, fast, and both directions. Once all that is done, even before the real product comes out or the first prototype is done, you can be 100% sure that your board fits into the enclosure exactly the way that you want it to. The product suite that we have to offer. SOLIDWORKS PCB, which is a standalone PCB schematic and layout software, which already has the collaboration plugin SOLIDWORKS PCB connector in it. Don't worry if you're using Altium Designer, you can still buy our PCB connector plugin and add that into your existing Altium Designer, and it still helps you do the same collaboration function between SOLIDWORKS, what SOLIDWORKS PCB and SOLIDWORKS allows. In this case, you just need the connector, and Altium Designer works exactly the way you can collaborate with SOLIDWORKS Mechanical CAD. Now for the most important part, let's take a look at the same from the demo. This is the SOLIDWORKS PCB standalone package. By looking at it, you would know that this is the schematic drawing that we have to do. Let's see how we can add a symbol to it and how easy it is to wire it. From the libraries, we can have specific libraries set for the whole database or just for your project. Let's open up the database for the project. Select whatever component you have. You can see a small snapshot of what component they are. Drag them and drop them into the specific function where you need it. Once it's drawn, you can just close all the commands that you don't need, like that. Draw your net connections with ground power points there. and your 12 volt DC, like that. That's how easy it is to add your net connections here. Once drawn, click on the wire command, just drag, drop them there. That's done. And again from here, the ground connection, and it's that simple. Now, instead of adding your wires, you can also connect to a specific connection point based on the ports that you give them. Just zoom in, add a port there, and then just follow the steps here. Connector, just change the port's name to connector. That's how simple it is to add your connection points between 2 points even without adding a wire here. Once it's all done, you can have a PCB layout created like this. For example, I've taken up a previously done PCB layout just to show you how the PCB connector plugin works. Let's look at the new connector, PCB connector. On the right hand side, you should find this PCB collaboration tool. Click on push, so it already selects the project that you're working on. You can just give it any description. Check this new board and click on post. SOLIDWORKS PCB connector looks up to the network connection that you have set up and communicates it with the PCB board that you've added. It all sends to the board there, and in your SOLIDWORKS CAD PCB connector plugin, which is automatically there, pull board from is the option that you need to select. Select the project that you're working on and click on OK. Again, based on the server that you set up, SOLIDWORKS says the different boards that you have. It creates an assembly for the board, save the assembly for what it needs to look and how it needs to look in your SOLIDWORKS CAD, and the board's assembly is created with all the 3D models that you put in your PCB project. Once we get this board assembly, right click on that, edit the sketch for your board. You can add few fillets there, 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 and there. Once all your fillets are added, click on OK to accept the command. Now your board shapes is changed. Accept that. Exit our sketch. Going back to PCB connector, push this board again. New board is what he says. Post that. And moving back to the electronics engineer, you can see there is a new board command coming up. View all the changes. Click on that. It shows what the changes are in pink. Accept your changes if you want. Accept them. That's how simple it is to collaborate this way. In some cases, you might have an enclosure already put up, but you won't know if that actually fits your board, or it might be hard to save even your board. In this case, I already have the enclosure put up here. Let's create our new PCB board. New board. Let's select the same project, SD card USB 2. OK. And SOLIDWORKS creates another assembly. Let's override the assembly because I don't want my old assembly to be there anymore. Replace it yes. And SOLIDWORKS creates a board model like that. I don't want the old changes to be accepted. Let this be there. Open my enclosure first. That's the enclosure. Let's bring in our board component here. SD card USB and add it anywhere here. Once done, component gets hidden. I don't want that. I want all my component to show. That's good. Let's select this face and mate it to this part of my board. Okay, done. So now you can see obviously the board cannot be fit into our enclosure. To do changes to our board here, let's select the sketches for our board, edit the sketches. We have a board profile already given by my mechanical engineers. Convert these entities. Delete this old board. I don't want that anymore. Exit my sketch. Now my new board is created. Once it's all done, you can see our SOLIDWORKS assembly for the board has also been updated. Once updated, I can go back to my board, push this new board to check, post that, Okay, and SolidWorks PCB would accept the board design from a model. Oh, there are no new designs. The reason is I have not completely posted it yet. The command from a board, push this board design, new board. Let's create a board again. From a PCB, new board, SD card USB 2. Okay, let's create a new assembly. A new assembly created here. Discard the old changes. From our board design, let's insert a new component, SD card USB 3 to be shown. Mate our component again with the board enclosure. Accept the changes. Okay. And now to edit our board profile. Edit the sketches that we have to our new board profile. Convert our entities. Delete the existing board. Sketch. That should be good. And now push this board back into PCB design, new board. If you don't want to update your board here, you can still create your own PCB layout from up here, new PCB. From the PCB connector, it still shows us the old connection created and the new PCB board from our SolidWorks CAD. View the changes, you can view it, accept the changes, accept it. And that's how the mechanical engineers can create your board also. Once it's all done, again from your project, you can import the changes from the schematic drawing. Which you need to save first. PCB1, that's fine. Project, import changes from PCB board. You can see everything that's available. I don't want everything. Let's select only the stuff that we need. Disable all. Let's add our LEDs first. LED 1, blue, red, green, blue, and again green. Execute just these 4 changes and close. Validate changes and execute changes. And let's add some more component here. LED 1, LED 2. Sorry about that. LED1 and LED2. Changes, close the command, we get our board that we can place them. Once we place them, just for the electronics engineer, they can still have a look at how our board looks like in the SolidWorks PCB model itself. And before updating, we can get our changes done from our mechanical engineers also. That's all for the webinar today. Thanks for attending the webinar. I'll take all the questions offline. Thank you. Bye.